What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So starting off with data points for this upcoming week, you have a lot of big ones. Starting off on Monday, you have ISM manufacturing. Forecast right now is 49.8. So that's been really moving and kind of going towards that 50. Anything above 50 shows more of an expansion occurring within the market. Flip side, anything below that shows more of a contraction. So based on the low, which was August of roughly like 46, definitely like it is moving in the right direction. So that one's going to be a key one to watch for. You also have JOLT numbers coming out on Tuesday. Forecast right now for that is 7.8. That one's also going to be a very touchy one, only because of what Powell recently just stated. So essentially, this is the exact data that he's going to be really looking at very, very closely. And so that one's coming out Tuesday at 9 a.m. Moving on to Thursday, same old, same old. So initial jobless claims, 215,000 the forecast. So that one will most likely affect potentially future cuts. And so most likely for the March one. But again, a lot of the data points that I'm going to be kind of talking on all have that ability to kind of move that. And then moving over to Friday, you have non-farm payroll and also unemployment. Unemployment forecast right now is 4.1. So all that can definitely move the market. And then you also have a lot of big companies unveiling the earnings. So Palantir, AMD, Monday, Tuesday. So that'll kind of shake up the tech sector. But essentially, you have a lot of escalation associated to tariffs over this weekend. So a lot of people are starting to panic. And for those of you that have researched or know a little bit about the dirty 30s, the Great Depression, and a lot of that was stemming from pretty much the same circumstances that played out and are playing out right now. A little bit of a tariff war, but a lot of those other countries kind of retaliated, and thus that's what really prompted just everything to go to crap back in the day. Again, I know a lot of you, even including myself, we weren't born then, but if you've researched it, then you'd kind of know that was the precursor. And so a lot of people are very, very jumpy. And why I feel that is going to really prompt a pullback this week, probably early on, is because of this. So people's appetite for risk can always be seen through cryptocurrency. So when things are at all-time highs, the market's in typically euphoria. And right now, Ripple, which in my opinion is one of the most stable ones out there, up and coming, that is down 10.9% right now. So essentially, that does mean that the market most likely will pull back quite considerably tomorrow. And so anticipate a 5% across the board, probably at the very bare minimum. And I think in SoFi's case, that's not all that great, only because of where it does currently stand on the technicals. So I'm going to go over that in a second. But as far as specifics to SoFi, no fireside chats, nothing really planned for this upcoming week. So it is just kind of going to be at the mercy of the broader market. As far as shorts going into this week, you have 12.4% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 133.45 million shares overall are being shorted. Shorts honestly haven't really done all that much. They've been returning kind of in November and December, and you can kind of see that based on this. So November, December, they were returning, and then since then they've been stagnant. And once again, as for those of you that watch my videos, you'd know that they haven't really done anything of substance over the last 2 weeks, even though a lot of big data has been coming out. So something to kind of keep in mind. Just to go back over to the tariffs for 1 second, this was just posted saying Goldman Sachs believes that it's just going to be like a short-lived fear. And in my opinion, I kind of do tend to agree, just because the states, right? Like Mexico, I'm not really sure of their kind of standing, but Canada definitely does need the states. And I'm Canadian, I can say that. And I know that Canada does rely on the states for a lot, but at the same time, it's kind of still more of a give and take, right? And so I think just Canada quickly retaliated, maybe without thinking. Of course, our elections are coming out next year in 2025, November, I believe. And so essentially, maybe it might be a political kind of thing as well that was done, but on this channel, I don't really like to get political or whatever else, but I do tend to agree that I think it is going to be a short-lived fear, but nonetheless, there is going to be a pullback associated to that. That's just, again, my viewpoint, but if you have cash on the sidelines, it might be one of those kind of scenarios to buy the dip with. But as far as right now, so with it closing at 15 and change, it does mean that right here, so the 4,000 at that 15.50 and then 6,000 at that 15 is going to be in the money. Everything above that is expiring worthless, so that's the downside of doing options. So you won't really see any spike up or anything on Monday because of that, but if anything, I think it might just be a little bit of a bloodbath. But essentially, you do have this right here. So walls 7,000 pretty much at the 16.50, and then 9,000 at that 17, 7,000 at 17.50, 18 at or 14,000 at the $18 strike price. So if you feel that it's going to get there, of the call options that were purchased on Friday, there is a consensus for it to be at $18 or around that $18 for this upcoming week. So let me know your viewpoint on that. And then the bears are anticipating for it to be sub 14.50, and I don't feel like that really is encumbering the level of fear that is kind of in the market right now. But going over here for a second, so with SoFi, let's pull up the technicals. So with it at $15.78, right above this pivot point, so 15.72 and then 14.73 is going to be the next strong kind of support levels for SoFi, so just watch for that. And then potentially, depending on how bad it does get, $14.11. And the reason why I'm saying depending on how bad it gets, going into pretty much all of this fear, SoFi was actually below that 50-day moving average. So that 50-day moving average is 15.74. And historically speaking, as I've mentioned, every time SoFi does break below that, this is where you kind of see a 30%, possibly in some cases 40, but I think on average is like 28% of a pullback. And so that is where I think some people might cause some panic, because I'm sure at the same time a lot of people bought during this run up and have been holding on for, let's say, 25, but now with the market potentially pulling back slightly, this is where, again, you could just see panic, profit taking, and whatever else kind of escalating the downtrend. So let me know your viewpoint on SoFi. Where do you see things going for this upcoming week? Are you a buyer? Are you a seller? What have you been doing with SoFi? And where do you essentially see things going in kind of the short term? So let me know your viewpoint. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. Hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend thus far. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon where I give buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolutely on point and bangers, even this upcoming week. For a lot of the companies unveiling the earnings, I did put out my targets on there, so definitely worthwhile to go over there and take a look. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.